Hello, guys. Welcome to Adlit Lessons. Today, we shall have a new lesson by Pico Iyer in praise of the humble comma, which is an interesting poetic account of the need for proper punctuation. The essay illustrates how meaning is enriched, altered, or even subverted by the humble comma. Siddharth Pico Raghavan Iyer, known as Pico Iyer, is a British born essayist and novelist, often known for his travel writing. He is the author of numerous books on crossing cultures, including Video Night in Kathmandu, The Lady and the Monk, and The Global Soul. An essayist for Time magazine since 1986. He also publishes regularly in Harper's, the New York Review of Books, and the New York Times and other publications. Iyer was born as Siddharth Pico Raghavan Iyer in Oxford, England, the son of Indian parents. His father, you can see him, Raghavan N. Iyer, who was a philosopher and political theorist, then enrolled in doctoral studies at the University of Oxford. His mother, the religious scholar Nandini Nanak Mehta. So these are his parents, Indian parents. Pico Iyer was born to Indian parents in Oxford, England, and he is, in fact, the great great grandson of the Indian Gujarati writer Mahipatram Nilkant. Both of his parents grew up in India and they went to England for their tertiary education. So, of course, there's a reason for his unusual name. It's a combination of Buddha's name Siddhartha and that of the Florentine Neoplatonist Pico della Mirandola and his father's name. Altogether, we have Siddharth Pico Raghavan Iyer. When Iyer was 7 in 1964, his father started working with the Center for Study of Democratic Institutions. It's a California based institution. So the family also moved to California as his father started teaching at University of California, Santa Barbara. So for more than a decade, Iyer moved back and forth several times a year between schools and college in England and his parents' home in California. So you can just imagine the peripatetic kind of living or that kind of a routine or attitude that he has developed. Okay, so he is. So this is the reason why he has become very famous, a great traveler. Many travelers they don't like owning up to being tourists, but author and essayist Pico Iyer he claims the label with a sense of pride. Iyer, whose travel writing over the past 30 odd years has been celebrated for its insightful observations and lyrical beauty. He describes himself as a global wanderer who has lost count of the number of countries. He don't know even how many countries he had visited up till now. And all these travelings and all these journeys he has done, and he visited all these countries on tourist visas. So at the end of his towards the dawn, I mean towards the twilight of his life, the evening of his life, he has chosen one of the best and most beautiful places of the world, Japan, where he lives in for the better part of the year. Because since he visited Japan in 1992 on a tourist visa, he chose to be a tourist in Japan, so that I don't harbor, I don't have any illusions about belonging. And because a tourist is someone who brings her or his curiosity to everything around her and doesn't assume she knows everything. So That is the reason why he considers himself as a tourist, as a traveler. Of course, quite contrary to other, this is unlikely and unusual when compared to other writers and philosophers. Pico Iyer, he desires to be more known as a traveler rather than a writer, and he loves to be a tourist, and he visited all these places on tourist visa, and he has his own reasons and his own justifications for all these things. Yes. So these are his important works. You can have a list of beautiful works, his seminal and phenomenal works written and penned and authored by Pico Iyer. Video Night in Kathmandu, The Lady and the Monk, Autumn Light, which is a very beautiful work, Season of Fire and Farewells. It talks about the autumn season, and it describes the beautiful landscapes of Japan. Yes, this could be Home, uh, which is arguably one of the greatest written by one of the greatest living travel writer, Pico Iyer. And you can see Beginner's Guide to Japan. Of course, spending so many years in and out of Japan, it's never an exaggeration if Pico Iyer has penned such a book called A Beginner's Guide to Japan. And then again, you have another work, The Man Within My Head, where he talks about the influence of his own father, Robert Greene, in his life. Robert Greene, the author, um, Graham Greene, and his father, his own father, Raghavan Iyer, both in his life and career. Again, more works. Abandon. It is, in fact, a remarkable novel, sunlit, atmospheric, and intelligent, as commented by the Washington Post book world. Okay, it is, of course, a romance, it's a novel, Abandon. Yes, here again, the global journey of the 14th Dalai Lama, which is entitled as The Open Road. Yes, Pico Iyer has been based since 1992 in Nara, the ancient capital city of Japan, where he lives with his Japanese wife. You can see there his Japanese wife in a blue kimono. She is Hiroko Takoshi, the lady of his second book. That is, he has written a book titled as The Lady and the Monk. And she, in fact, is the lady of that title. She has already had two children from his wife's. She has already had two children from her earlier marriage. So later on, Pico Aya marries her, and they live together in Nara. Here is the work, The Lady and the Monk. Yes, 4 seasons in Kyoto. So these are the biographical or bio brief of Pico Iyer and his life. His debut work, Video Night in Kathmandu, and other reports from the not so far east that talks about the war and the post Cold War convergence of East and West. All these brought him fame. Okay. And later on, the family house where he lived at Santa Barbara, it burned down due to a wildfire in 1990. And because of that, and because of a biographical landmark that perhaps confirmed his lifelong peripatetic perspective on being at home in general. And because of this, he had to adopt and accept a peripatetic attitude towards life. That means he admits and he accepts that life or home is not a single place for me. Wherever I go, that is my home. So, peripatetic kind of living means you are traveling, you are taking short intervals, and you stay at one place for a couple of months, and then you travel on, you move on from that place, and then you can see yourself. You find yourself placed in another country, and then again to and fro and moving in and out of countries. So this is this is a kind of routine or lifestyle that such people adopt, for whom life, career, work, family is scattered and spread pervasive all around the globe. You know, with a self declared bird like traveler's temperament, he does not cherish a sense of belongingness to any place. So that's a good idea. It's a better choice. It's a better way or a better road that Pico Iyer has chosen for his own life. He considered himself as a bird-like traveler, and he's supposed to sought to resort to such kind of temperament, so that he doesn't remember or cherish, or he doesn't identify or simply attach himself to a sense of belongingness to any place. And then he's a free bird, he can travel anywhere. And in his own ways, I am not rooted in a place. I think so much as in certain values and affiliations and friendships that I carry everywhere I go. My home is both invisible and portable. So um, he doesn't feel rooted everywhere. He does not harbor very specific and limited kind of, he doesn't confine himself anywhere except for Japan. Japan was a place where he felt rooted and he felt accepted, even though he was a foreigner. Of course, born to Indian parents in Britain, and then most of his life spent in California, and then traveling all around the world. Though a foreigner, he felt really attached, or he could identify some sort of a peace and composure that he could enjoy and experience for the lifelong, for his entire rest of his entire life. That's a place. That's the only place he could identify, or he could harbor, or that's the only place which evoked a sense of rootedness and connectedness in him. Except for Japan, he didn't have any kind of home feelings or belongingness to any place, because for him, home is both invisible and portable. Apparently, you cannot identify his place, you cannot identify his home, and home is where he carry himself, where he is able to take along with him. Now, during a business trip from Hong Kong on a Tokyo stopover, Iyer was enchanted by the tranquility of a Buddhist temple, and that's that's the turning point. That's a crucial and pivotal moment in his life when he happened to take a visit of Japan, that is Tokyo, where he visited a Buddhist temple, and he was bewitched. He was allured uh, from head to foot by the beauty of that city, by the beauty of that landscape, and then and there he decided, all on a sudden, to leave New York and move to Japan. And that's how he took his life partner. He chose his better half, Hiroko, from Japan. Now, he describes his shifting from the bustling city of Manhattan to the sleepy old city of Nara in Japan, as if I have walked out of a cluttered warehouse into a simple bare room with a scroll on the wall, everything so singular that emotion is brought to a pitch. So this is how he defines or describe his own shifting and movement, or what you say, uprooting himself from. You can't say that because he never felt any rootedness to any place. But then he had to transport himself from California, New York, to that of Nara, Japan. So from the crowded Manhattan, bustling cities, very busy space, a place where life is too fast and too quick. Uh, so that's how he defines traveling is not simply leaving your homes, you're abandoning your habits. Such great personality he owns, because and his what do you say, all his earnings and his savings are traveling and experience and life that he has seen and lived through these travelings. So, Pico Iyer himself describes his own creativity and about his writing which he chose as his career, of course. He says that when life becomes hard, when life appears hard, and when you find life too hard, it's better to walk and move into a cabin. That cabin is your writing, that's your creative frenzy, that's your creative faculty, your artistic faculties and skills. You better go back to your, you just take a walk, you move towards your cabin into a forest, inside woods, inside a jungle, where you are at peace, and then and there you try to sort out things, you try to uh, analyze and to make order to everything around you, and then you sit still and listen to the silence and solitude, and then later on you will find yourself untying and making some sense and order out of this tangle of chaos and tangle of knot of disorder and unrest and frustrations of this life. And then finally you understand, you comprehend, you make sense out of everything around you. This is how he defines his creativity, and this is how he defines his writing, and what makes him normal, what makes him a writer. Writing actually helps him to restore his sanity. He is able to remain normal, he is able to keep calm, composed, and he is able to balance his mind. He is able to retain his sensibility and sensitivity because of this writing. So, even in his wonderful work, Autumn Lights, he is actually describing, or he is talking about the beauty of Nara, Japan, a tranquil, a serene place. Tokyo, I mean, Tokyo, where he saw a Buddhist temple and he visited the place. And then and there, he started exploring and investigating every nook and corner of Japan. And now he understands what a tranquil, serene, calm, peaceful, solitary place it is. Of course, even though people are there, even though humanity is there, even though commerce, trade, everything is there. Japan, you know, one of the most leading manufacturers of the world, of course. But then uh, the sort of solitude, the sort of peace that he received in Japan, it's quite majestic, it's quite significant and pivotal in his life, which he could not afford to give up in his life, at least in the best part of his later life. So his great work, Autumn Light, it's a sublime celebration of autumn. It is set in the idyllic, how the lyrical beauty and upscale neighborhood in Nara. What is peculiar about Nara and why he chose Nara? It is a city which is located in the south central Honshu province of Japan, and it is noted and highlighted and popular for its ancient Buddhist buildings, of course, and artifacts, cultural, aesthetic, beautiful products made by human beings of cultural and historical significance. So it's a cultural, ethnic, aesthetic hub in Japan, of course, the ancient capital city, and it's also known for its temples and artwork, of course. And I think, the seven temples of Nara, the whole place is famous for the seven temples of Nara too. Of course, you can see and enjoy the idyllic, lyrical, and rustic tranquility and peace of this neighborhood. Okay. Pico Iyer, a keen observer of cultural collisions and cross pollitions, his works are pervaded with a sense of foreignness he carries with him wherever he goes. Of course, a traveler, he cannot himself confine to a specific space or geographical, he cannot afford geographical constraints imposed upon him. moving in and out of so many countries and visiting and acquainting with lots of people of many cultures, multiple culture, the multicultural scenario, people from different countries, people of different languages, people of different customs and traditions, people who move through different multiple lifestyles. Pico Iyer observes cultural collisions and cross pollinations, how cultural assimilation take place in this world. You see, for example, when you travel, you can see, if you go to Middle East, if you go to the US, all these are places where immigrants, they are rich and overcrowded with immigrants, people from different countries, from different ethnicities, from different races, speaking different languages. All of them reach these spots and they settle there, they work, they learn, they get education, they marry, they form family, and they have children. And then they settle there. Okay, and some sort of a cultural assimilation and cultural blending is taking place. So wherever he travels or wherever he goes, he carries a sort of foreignness. He is reluctant to root him there. He's reluctant to he's not ready that easily to connect himself and confine and get attached to a particular space. That's why he carries this foreignness, this foreign element that he carries everywhere. And in most of his works, he celebrates this in between position. He himself has got an in between. He is sandwiched, between different cultures and different countries. Born to Indian parents, in Oxford, England, and then spending most of his time in California, and then choosing his partner from Japan. Just imagine how cultures have been cross pollinated within himself, in his life, in his character, in his individuality, in his personality. How much identity crisis he might have gone through. He might have had a tough time. And this is actually a result of embracing multiple identities. He knows where he belongs to, but then he doesn't know. He cannot simply he cannot simply place him or glue him there. He has to travel, he has to move on in life. He once called himself as a global village on two legs. It's never a hyperbole, it's never an exaggeration for a person. A travel writer like Pico Iyer, if he calls himself as a global village on two legs, for a person like him, it's very difficult to embrace the notion of home. How can he call him? How can he call a place, a particular place, his home? He can never do that. And he says the country where people look like me, India, is the one where I can't speak the language. Of course, my language, my mother tongue is. How do I choose my mother tongue? I am born Indian. I look like an Indian. My appearance shows or expresses that I'm an Indian. I'm an Asian, of course. And the country where Indians are there, or people who look like me are there, I can't go there and speak my language. My tongue is English, of course. I belong to the Britain. My native place is Britain, England. But am I a British? No. The country where people sound like me, Britain, is a place where I look highly alien, of course. So in Britain, if you go there, he is an alien. But he sounds like a British, but he is never a British. And the country where people live like me, America, is the most foreign space of all. Of course, America, you all know that, was considered as a melting pot for so many years in the past. Melting pot concept is that the US was a place where so many cultures, so many ethnicities, so many racial groups, they come, join, live together, intermingle, they blend as if they are burnt, they melt together and they join together and form one a universal kind of culture. That's a culture of America, the US. So that's the melting pot culture, of course. And today, the US, the Middle East, and all those Australia, Canada, all these countries, you can never call them melting pot anymore because it's there is a salad bowl concept where people from different countries come and settle and they live, immigrants, but then they have the freedom, they are permitted, and they have the freedom and they have all the choice to maintain and retain their racial, cultural ethnicity and identity wherever they live. So that's why it's a salad bowl concept, because you it's a bowl full of vegetables and fruits cut together and with tempered with salt and pepper, but at the same time you can take back any piece of veggie out of a salad bowl. So this is for your kind information. This is for your general reference and understanding what is a melting pot theory and what is a salad bowl theory. So you can, of course, there is a prospect of a further reference of these theories to understand more about travel writers like Pico Iyer, of course. He practices meditation regularly and visits a Benedictine hermitage in California everywhere. So, moving on to Nara and settling in Japan doesn't mean that he has stopped, ceased traveling. Every year he visits a Benedictine hermitage. These are pictures of Nara in Japan. Of course, it's quite awesome and amazing to look at it. He has delivered popular TED Talks too. So you can see Pico Iyer is, of course, a very famous, a popular TED talker, and one of his talks titled "The Art of Stillness." The art of stillness, he stresses the importance of a solitude in triggering the most beautiful thoughts on life and the self. According to Pico Iyer, solitude and silence, of course, solitude is something with which we all are obsessed. We have a occasional and episodic kind of obsession with solitude and loneliness, including yourself and myself, isn't it? We love talking about or musing upon silence and solitude and spending some time on our own, introspecting on our own, thinking about our own self, and imagining that the whole world is there and we alone. We are there alone, all along. We are the only survivor here, the only inhabitant of the world. So, of course, Iyer, he too talks about in his talk at the TED, he talks about solitude, silence. This triggers, this creates one of the most beautiful thoughts of life and about your own self. And he often deals with a lot of themes, a plethora of many themes like religion, mysticism, revolutionary, revolutionary Cuba, Buddhist Kyoto, literature, globalism, sports, and film. So many, multiple themes on which he writes. One of his favorite themes is the convergence of mysticism and globalism, and he discusses the dual possibilities of enrichment and alienation in a rapidly globalizing world. What do you mean by globalism? Globalism is, in fact, the interconnectedness of people and businesses across the world. It is the action of a speeding up or accelerating or a fast movement and exchange of human beings, goods, products, services, capital, technologies, and cultural practices all over the planet. And what is the ultimate consequence or effect of globalization? It promotes or it progresses uh, and it increases interaction, communication between different regions and populations all around the world. You have economic globalization, we have cultural globalization, we have political globalization. What makes globalization possible? Traveling, of course, journey, easy movements all around the world, easy communication and interconnectedness. All these to move, mobility. That's what you call mobility. Traveling or moving easily and communicating easily with others all over the world in order to conduct business internationally. And This actually contributes or culminates in globalization. So, Pico Iyer's favorite themes, the convergence of mysticism and globalism. Of course, we have two domains, left and right. One is that of spirituality, faith in God, transcendentalism, mysticism, your faith and trust in God, the ever pervading, the omnipresent, the omnipotent God, that He controls the authority of God, the positivist thinking that it's the spirituality in the world. It's God, the creator, who controls this world. At the same time, we have a scientific domain or the globalistic domain where international business, commerce, trade happens or take place. The world is interconnected with each other through a lot of today we have internet. Today we are all yes, you are listening to me on a virtual platform. We are connected on a virtual platform. So all these connectedness bring about globalization and our interaction and communication. So, swaying to and fro and moving to and fro between these two domains, one gets enriched at the same time. Sometimes we feel alienated. For the last couple of months, we are also having a very hard time. We are psychologically, we are under pressure. There is stress and strain. We don't have any physical contact. There is no sense of touch. There is no sense of intimacy between people, all these things. So we feel alienated. There is a lot of identity crisis, a lot of psychological issues and disturbances that the whole world is suffering today. So that's what he says. There is a convergence of mysticism and globalism there in every individual, in every space, in every tempo, in every time moment, in every time zone. This take place, and there is a possibility of a binary, a dual possibility of getting enriched at the same time suffering a kind of alienation. You feel spiritually elevated. You feel united with God. You feel some mystic composure and calmness in your mind. At the same time, you are a victim of alienization. You're a victim of isolation. You are a victim of existential crisis. So, all these are increasing and enhancing in a rapidly globalizing world. So, this is what Pico Iyer talks about in the TED Talk, The Art of Stillness. This is you can read it, you can read the sub captions here. It talks about the adventures in going nowhere, because he doesn't have any concept of a concrete concept of a home. Home is portable, home is invisible. Where you go, there is your home. So, according to Iyer, in an age of constant movement, nothing is more urgent than sitting still. That's the reason why he describes his writing, his career, his creativity. He says, you just sit still and listen. Simply sit, remain, focus, pay some attention, and just remain calm for some time. Because the whole world is running, it is in constant movement. We are. We are acquainted, we can see, we confront a world which is moving fast, which is living fast, it's running and turning, the wheel is turning fast. And in this age of distraction, nothing can feel more luxurious than paying attention. I have told you many times in many of our clauses too that it's rare. Rarely do you find a listener. Rarely do you find a person who pays attention to what you speak. It's easy to speak today. It's easy to contemplate today, but then you won't get a better listener because nobody can focus. Nobody can sit still. We are all restless. Mind, soul, body, physique, everything is restless. So that's what Pico Iyer he hints to his audience, to his readers, and such a great travel writer, such a person who has seen so much of world, so much of the planet, and so much of countries, and so much of life, and who puts all these things, who pens down all his experiences. You cannot simply remain without paying attention to what he says. When he says, contemplate on your solitude, contemplate and muse and ponder of your silence, at least for some time every day or occasionally, so that it brings or it triggers, it evokes the most beautiful, the most amazing, and the most aesthetic and charming feelings and emotions about your life and about your own personality and self. So that's all about Pico Iyer. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching and listening. See you next time in the next video lesson.